It's velvet, baby. Whoa, it's velvet, baby. Velvet walks in, clock ticks in slow motion. Yeah. Woo. Hands in his pockets, but he owns the ocean. Every glance up and every smirk a margin call. Ooh, I sip your feel like whiskey, watch your paper fall. Oh, markets whisper secrets that only I can hear. I make chaos poetry turn panic into cheer. Gold in my veins, but the sky is my ceiling. I trade in moments and I steal what you're feeling. Ooh, yeah. Velvet core. I'm a storm you can't contain. Every loss is my champagne. Velvet core. I'm the apex predator of green. Velvet core. King of chaos, cash and obscene. I buy your doubts, sell them like fine wine. Sip, sip, ha. I turn your greed into my bottom line. Cash, yeah, yeah. Laugh in the elevator while your empire shakes. I'm the ghost in the ticker, the tremor that breaks. Skr, skr. Ah. My silk shirt catches lightning in a pool of champagne. Every loss of yours is a brushstroke in my frame. I'm human but untouchable, a storm dressed in charm. I twist the world's veins, yeah, you don't feel the heart. Velvet cord. I eat your back, then piss in your game. Oh, velvet cord. I ghost your fun, leave residue in your pain. Bang. Velvet cord. Stacking green towers on your grave. Velvet cord. I sip champagne off the chaos I crave. Yeah, cha 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 cha. Woo. Velvet's here, cash raining, towers tilting. Oh, velvet core. I take your money, laugh with your wife. Velvet core. I'll short your soul and short your life. Velvet cord. Gold dripping off your gravy. Shine. Velvet cord. Cash raining while you can. Let's go.
Oh, brother, oh, brother, oh, brother. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. My massive apologies for being late. I get it. Yell at me. Fat Barney's back on the TV, but I have good reason for it. It's because a lot of things are going crazy in the market, and I wanted to make sure I had the story right. And we also have a specialty guest today, so I was prepping for that. I'm very excited. Today's going to be an awesome show. I hope you're having a great Thursday, August the 28th. Holy shit. That means my wife's birthday is tomorrow. The 29th. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's the 29th. I should probably, my wife, the girl that you guys have met a lot. You haven't seen her because she goes to a different school in Canada, but she's real. She's 100% real, and her 100% real birthday is 100% tomorrow. So I should probably do something about that. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a good one. That was a little bit of a realization for me. But yeah, crazy stuff has happened between when I last saw you yesterday, post-market, and early this morning, and when things were a little bit dismal there, where the people, the bears, the Nvidia bears were cheering with seemingly the slaughtered head of the bulls in their hand, screaming, "My puts will pay." Well, it turns out they were wrong. Because not only did we not get the outsized reaction we were looking for, it was under the implied vol of the 5.5%. But early this morning, we just got a big announcement related to Nvidia. And gosh darn it, by the time we get to open, there's a very good chance that Nvidia is going to be in the green. Just like that, the boys are back in town. So I'll be breaking down that story. And then I really want to pivot over to a little bit of the overall market because of what we see going on. And it's going to get a little mathematical. It's going to get a little, glossy-eyed, almost bringing you guys back to algebra in high school. But what we are seeing right now, due to vol crush, just volatility leaving the system, and I can mathematically show it to you. Shout out to Spot Gamma. But because of that, we're going to see the interesting mathematical implications of charm and Vanna. Those are second order derivatives in the world of options. And like I said, I know it gets mathematically dense, but the TLDR is this. It means that the distribution of prices that we theoretically can go to, because think about it like you're a fisherman, like you're going out there. Sometimes you cast a really wide net. Sometimes you cast a very narrow net. If we, in this analogy, use volatility as our net, large net, a lot of possibilities. Small net, not so many possibilities. When vol is coming in, the possibility of prices of where we could go up and down is actually going to be less, which means that these market makers don't have to be as hedged. And then if you look at what's going on the put skew, it means that they don't really have to consider as much downside. If they don't have to consider as much downside, that means that they can buy back because they just don't have to account for so much negative delta, which is exactly why I believe today Fat Barney is calling it out before the market opens. We will be seeing a new all-time high. And if anything, my real call out on SPX is 6,500. That's my call out for the day with one little asterisk, one little caveat. This entire call out, this entire idea is based on the fact that Nvidia doesn't puke. If Nvidia does puke, vol might not be crushed. In fact, vol might expand. So as long as we can hold this overall positive gamma area in the S&P 500, which I strongly believe we will hold that as long as Nvidia doesn't puke, then due to the mathematical influences of Vanna and charm, which once again, I know it's boring as shit, but it's important for today's session, I believe we're going to see not only a new all-time high, but I'm calling out 6,500 on SPX, which is going to be then a very interesting setup to tomorrow, which an hour before the market opens, we get the PCE report, the personal consumption expenditure. So we have a lot to get into, a lot to chit chat about. And then I want to prep you guys up for the day. We're going to watch the market open. We're going to see the craziness. We're going to track what's going on with the big guys and the big players and the big money. And then around 10 a.m., we are going to be blessed by the presence of one of the minds behind Spot Gamma, Mr. Brent, who's going to be coming on explaining an entirely new product. And truly, in my last decade of trading, I have not seen a product such as this on the market. You're going to hear from him. I'm sure he's going to use the term called flow bros. And basically, he's going to kind of show how a lot of people in the industry are kind of explaining things and showing off things for engagement bait, but it's actually not useful. And obviously they created a product that kind of goes around that and gives you guys, the traders, and ideally me, I was checking it out this morning, it's so freaking cool, actual useful information. My man Matt, crushing it as always. Shout out Forex. So let's get into it because we have a lot to get into, but my big call out today, 6,500. We're looking for the Vanna and the charm influences. We have crazy news related to Nvidia. As long as Nvidia can hold, we're going to hold the positive gamma, and I'm looking for that bullish grind to the upside. Not necessarily some massive crazy spikes, because once again, vol is getting crushed, but we are looking at those influences from the market makers, and my big brain mystic market call out for the day is a new all-time high. And if I happen to be wrong, if I don't get it right, please just, whatever, I'll delete this video, I'll delete the tweets, just erase this from your memory, because as always, I really appreciate it when you guys only focus on my successes and very, very rapidly forget my failures. It makes me feel better as a person, and it makes me not cry as much in the shower, if I'm being completely honest. So with that being said, let's get rocking with Fat Barney Show today. Stock futures are little changed as Nvidia declines following earnings. I guarantee that nerdy ass intern at CNBC already updated. Yeah, S&P 500 futures rise as Nvidia shares pair pre-market losses. So if you kind of missed out what's going on, yesterday we heard from Nvidia. Even Nvidia has speed limits. Well, I guess the Wall Street Journal got that one wrong. Yesterday, Nvidia's earnings, they beat on top and bottom line. If you look at the revenue, there was one subcomponent of revenue, the data centers, which is a very important subcomponent that ended up not doing as well. I don't know why Wall Street thought they would do so extraordinarily well when we know they were not selling chips to China. Like, that's a big customer. But regardless, it still beat on revenue. And very quickly, let me take a step back. Instead of really just diving into today and where we're going today, this week, something like that, I want to talk about more of a multi-month, multi-quarter like outlook. Nvidia is beating on revenue without selling to China. Do you guys understand what that means? Do you understand what that means? They are beating they have the revenue of like some entire countries, and they're not even selling to China yet. So in terms of the multi-month, multi-quarter outlook of this, like, oh, has the AI bubble popped? Eventually it's going to pop, and it'll probably be disastrous. And I don't know, historians will write about it. But we're not at the end of the party, folks. This is crazy. And actually related to China, we have a huge update on that this morning. So anyway, they reported this yesterday because even though Nvidia beat on top and bottom lines and their guidance was fine, it was really this like looking into the data center conversation, and then all of a sudden everyone forgot. Nvidia in talks with the White House for permission to sell Blackwell chip to China. Nvidia offers U.S. government a cut of Blackwell sales in order to secure the deal. So that announcement this morning completely undid everything that happened yesterday. So this whole data center concern, what's going on? I mean, at one point, Nvidia went from 181 down to 171, dropping $10, about that 5%, 6%. And like this, we're already back, currently down not even $1. It's down 0.5%. We're coming all the way back on that news. So all of a sudden, all these articles that are being written, they're already old. You could already forget about them. Nvidia beats on top and bottom line. Here's why the stock is falling. I already talked to you about the data centers, but once again, that's yesterday news, and we're already on to today. Nvidia forecasts decelerating growth after 2-year AI boom. Yes, they didn't technically beat on data centers. People wanted that revenue to be higher. But guess what? If they can now sell to China, what do you think that's going to do to the revenue, folks? Nvidia CEO Jensen says bringing Blackwell AI chip to China is a real possibility. So this was being reported. This headline is it is a possibility. We heard that last night. This was being written, I guess, at 8 p.m. last night. And then literally already this morning being reported by Fox. They're already in talks, and even to get the deal done, they're even considering giving a slice of the revenue to the U.S. government. So right there, that's why Nvidia dropped, popped, and as long as this can hold, I'm telling you folks, as long as Nvidia can keep us together today. Sorry, I was looking at some vol stuff. Let me go to the trace tool. I just want to show you something going on here. Come on. You can see lots of positive gamma. All that purple right there, tons of positive gamma. If this can hold, we have support. When you pair all this positive gamma support with the fact that vol is getting its face kicked in right now, that's going to lessen the net. You're going to get the Vanna and the Charm influences. These market makers selling those puts don't have to hesitate much. They're going to start to buy back in the open market, whether it's stock, whether it's futures, and we're going to get that grind to the upside, which leads us to some interesting levels, namely 6,500. These pink dotted lines, that's still the high and the low from Friday, which I perceive to be important because that's the Jerome Powell Jackson Hole Symposium. So I'm looking to hold above that. Big support at 6,480. Obviously, we hit a new all-time high yesterday at 6,487. Once again, this is all with respect to SPX. So for me, the next major level is somewhere between 6,500, and actually to get really specific, I have a target at 6,515 and 6,535. And obviously, I'm getting these right here from Spot Gamma. Just looking at these, where the major players are at. We have some negative Gamma here, 6515, long calls, and then right here, 6535, also long calls. So today, on a zero DTE perspective, as in expiring at 4 p.m. today, there are players out there betting on 6515 and 6535. So please remember that. So obviously, that is not the only show in town. Remember, we're still in the middle of a trade war. Mexico to raise tariffs on imports from China after the U.S. push. Very quick side note, this has nothing to do with the market, the economy, trading, psychology, me being Fat Barney, or the fact that I have a completely real wife who you guys just haven't met because she goes to a different school. Do you think the SNL actress, the comedian, Kate McKinnon, who I perceive to actually be one of the most funny, most comedic, most hilarious actors currently working, do you think this is like her cousin or something? I saw this today, and for a brief second, I really thought to myself, did they bring Kate McKinnon, the SNL actress, now turning movie star, onto Bloomberg to talk to her about our trade deal with Mexico and China? Because if so, I would watch it more. I would 100% pay attention to any mainstream financial news more if they just brought on comedy actors or stand-ups or improv people to teach us all about the economy. Anyway, side note.
How significant then, Jill, is this move both politically and economically for Mexico?
Yes, good morning, Tom. I think it's, very significant, right? So we're still obviously waiting on the details. This hasn't been entirely finalized, according to people familiar with the matter. But what this would ultimately aim to do is target imports specifically of textiles and also automobiles, which I think is pretty key, considering that Mexico has really become a top destination for Chinese cars, I believe overtaking Russia this year. So, obviously really, really significant there. For the Mexican government gives them an opportunity to potentially shore up, sort of domestic production in some of these industries. But I do think that you can't really understate the U.S. component of this and ultimately the Trump factor, right? This is something that the Trump administration has been pressuring Mexico to pursue for quite some time now. Their big worry, according to the president himself, really, is that those cheap Chinese goods that are then coming into Mexico then eventually make their way over the border. So that's part of the pressure campaign here, and also I'd say is fairly akin to similar tactics that we've seen the U.S. pursue elsewhere. Obviously, really, really trying to get some of those key economic allies to sort of pursue some types of tariffs or otherwise, in some cases sanctions even against China. So I think again, obviously, still a lot to come, still a lot that we have to see finalized within this budget plan. But I think it is a very interesting one.
Yeah.
So the major reason, not only to inform you guys of that, obviously, is we're kind of seeing an uptick in trade war news. Like recently, we're like, okay, what's going on with the EU? They're trying to strike some deals. So I feel like for a minute there, obviously the trade war and what country are we talking to was the major news of every single day. Then it kind of hit a lull, and right now it's a slight uptick. Kind of like, I don't know, what would be an equivalent graph? The amount of victims of people who died on the Titanic. We had a huge spike, then kind of nothing, and now we're getting a small pop graphically. It's not as big as the initial one, but it's still maybe interesting to pay attention to, or who knows, you maybe could make a documentary on it. So anyway, we're getting updates kind of on Mexico still doing what the U.S. wants. Most likely that's the way the EU is going to go. We know that talks are still progressing with Chinese trade negotiators, so we have a little bit movement there. And also, as of this morning, we have some updates related to Japan. Japan's top trade negotiator cancels trip to U.S. over trade deal issues. During the coordination with the U.S., because it became apparent that certain points required further technical discussion, the trip was canceled. So I would say this is one that's almost like maybe not really taking a step to the back, but kind of maybe going a little bit sideways, I would say, on this one. So we're just kind of waiting on Japan, but obviously that's going to be another important story if we can kind of get it buttoned up. But overall, I know in April things were absolutely crazy, and we all heard it of how insane this all was and whatever, all the doomsday talk, all the destruction talk. Well, guess what? We hit an all-time high yesterday. These trade deals are massively, massively favoring the U.S. Is it all perfect? No. Is Trump a bull in a China cabinet? Absolutely yes. But when it comes to this trade deal stuff, it's really, really hard to argue with the fact that he's clearly won. I don't know how that's disputable. If you want to attack him for some sort of economic thing where you think he's falling short, well, I would say your major thing right now is I don't know, the Fed independence, his own meme coin, the fact that he's actively buying bonds as a sitting president. There's other things on the financial side that maybe isn't like top tier, but as it comes to the actual trade war, Trump and the administration really being led by Bissett here, the Treasury Secretary, they've kind of crushed it. They really, really have kind of crushed it. All right. With respect to today, early this morning, we got the GDP. Came in at 3.3. They were expecting 3. That is good because the one word I've been saying a little bit more lately, well, and don't count the word retard, I know I've been saying that more lately than I should have been, is stagflation, which is arguably more offensive than the word retard. But anyway, 3.3%. They were looking at 3. That's good, higher than expectations. And the reason why this is so good is because stagflation, by definition, is you have increased inflation, but decreased economic output. Well, right here, we're getting readings that, okay, inflation's not necessarily going the way we want it. We're going to find out more about that tomorrow. Okay, like put a pin in that. But in terms of like lack of economic, like we're just not growing. Well, actually, we are growing from a GDP perspective. So this is removing some of the uncertainty and some of the fears as it relates to that very scary word, stagflation. So that's another piece of news. Early this morning, basically, we had the 1-2 combo punch of a good GDP report and this Nvidia news, and putting that all together, it's once again why, hey, maybe today ends up being bearish. Of course, that's a non-zero probability. But in terms of the high probability pathways of where price could go today, it seems like we are gearing up for a push to a fresh all-time high. And then I hope you enjoy that because tomorrow, who knows? We are back to a binary event. Tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. ET, an hour before the market opens, we get the personal consumption expenditure report, which is, according to the Fed, the most important inflation report that they consider. It is the most lofty, is the most weighted. And with this, I wish I could tell you, is it going to beat or not? But who knows? I mean, it's whether the data is accurate or not, whether they revise it, this, that, the other thing. The binary event tomorrow morning, an hour before the market open, is does inflation come in at expectations or cooler, or is it going to come in hot? If it comes in hot, we're dropping. If it comes in at expectations, we'll have to look into the data. If it comes in cooler than expected, we're probably going to be continuing this trip to the upside. And also just your friendly neighborhood degenerate trader reminder, the market will be closed this upcoming Monday. This upcoming Monday, in observation of Labor Day, the market is closed. Don't forget about it. If you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter, macros.locals.com. Comes to your email inbox every single Sunday. I break down what's going on in the market. I give you cool AI-generated photos of my cat. And then you also get a cheat sheet of all the major earnings. You get a cheat sheet of all the major macroeconomic events. Today, there are pending home sales at 10 a.m. And then I give you the seasonality of each individual trading day. For the remainder of the week, unfortunately, there's no strong seasonal buys today, Thursday, and tomorrow, Friday. There's no real, it's neutral. From a seasonal perspective, or the past 27 years worth of data, the better part of 3 decades, there's no strong seasonal influence for the remainder of this week, just so you know. But I was just crunching the numbers for next week, and that's where it gets a little bit more exciting, but it's actually the week after that that the bulls have some clear, strong seasonality. All right, bringing it back to today specifically. Here's the levels I am watching on the S&P 500. Feel free to use them. Feel free to not use them. Feel free to fade them. Do whatever you want. Write them down, screenshot it. I don't really care. I'm just letting you know that I'm personally using these numbers today. So we have, obviously, as I always do, I mark out the previous high, low, and close, the green, the red, and the white. This dashed pink line is once again the high from the Jerome Powell Jackson Hole Symposium speech, which happens to be offering a support right at the top of the transition zone, right around 6480. So obviously a very important level. The bottom of the transition zone is 6460. Once again, this transition zone is kind of the awkwardness with gamma and delta from a 0DT perspective. So in there, it's kind of that chop neutral zone. Let's see if we can get above or push below. If we do get above, I'm watching 6490. Once again, we just see some active players at that level. So it is kind of interesting. It's also pretty much the high from yesterday. From there, we have the important technical, psychological, and options level of 6,500. If we do push that level, not only would it be a new all-time high, don't be surprised if on the first push we get a clear rejection, just because that's what happens at these key levels. What I'm interested in is if we get that push on the high likelihood of the pullback, How is that next low looking? Is that next low higher than all the other lows of the day? Because if so, that might be the opportunity to really ride it up to 6515 and 6535. Once again, those levels are just taken right from Spot Gamma, the key open interest levels where we see people playing those. Obviously, I just want to ride with big money and I want to do what they're doing. Now, in some weird event, maybe we get negative news, maybe Nvidia dips, anything like that. I don't know. You should also consider the bear case. I want you guys to know it. Personally, I won't be trading it today because I don't think it's with trend. But for those of you who want to fade the trend, obviously, a breakdown of 6460 and really, I guess, 6458 is going to be the bottom of the transition zone and also yesterday's low. We have a key level at 6450 and the below that I'd be targeting 6430. And if something crazy happens, we might get down here. But once again, I would say that that has a very, very low probability. So that's what I'm looking at today. The overall picture is strong. We hit an all-time high. Like by definition, how can you say it's not strong when we literally hit an all-time high? We are seeing higher highs. We are seeing higher lows. That's bullish price structure. We're above all the moving averages. That is also bullish momentum. And then looking at the option setup, a lot of positive support gamma beneath us. We have some interesting negative gamma above for some target levels. And then also we know that for today and tomorrow, and really actually all of next week, they're in the short term, in the closer price range, there are more calls and plays than puts. And right now it looks like we have some support below and some interesting target levels above. So I would say maybe not the most A+ setup I've ever seen, but clearly, in my humble opinion, favoring the bulls more than it is the bears by the time we consider, I don't know, even various things. Where is this? Right here. Let me show you what's going on here. Yesterday, this cumulative tick, we were just ripping all day. The large players were buying the New York Stock Exchange like no other, which is actually probably going to be super solid for the small cap sector. Yeah, small cap sector gapping up by 0.5%. This is the play that I'm really angry I missed. From a narrative standpoint, when you put together this idea of the Fed rate cut, speaking of which, what are the odds at right now? Polymarket. Let's see what the odds are at of the Fed rate cut in the mid-September meeting. What is it? Let's go to the past week here. It looks like dipped a little bit. So we have a 75% chance according to Polymarket where people are like actually betting. So most likely getting the rate cut. Those numbers are really going to solidify after the inflation report tomorrow and also the jobs report of Friday of next week. But anyway, the fact that the Russell is ripping, that really does align with the narrative of rate cuts. It's going to, as money becomes cheaper, which is what happens when you cut rates, like, yeah, you prompt a little bit more inflation, potentially a lot of bit more inflation. That's a side point. But that's going to benefit small companies that need more capital to keep going. So the Russell really, really ripping. And actually, Bitcoin getting a bit of a pop. When I woke up this morning, I noticed that I had a bunch of alerts going off on my phone related to Bitcoin. And I was kind of bummed out because the way my Bitcoin trade has been going lately, every time I get an alert, it means I'm losing another $10,000. So it was very, very nice to actually see this one. And hopefully this is a low. And I really just wanted to take out 117.4. If it happens today, I'd be happy. But once again, the likelihood of us going that far is pretty slim. So I want to see it take out 114, 150, and 116, just $1,000 at a time. With that being said, we have about 30 seconds to go. So let me get you guys ready. We'll watch the opening session. And dude, Tesla, okay, holding 350. Nvidia, looking for that to push green on the day, has less than $1 to go. And then obviously we will be watching the options flow. And then we're going to have Brent, one of the masterminds behind the product of Spot Gamma, brand new product coming out today called Flow Patrol. And the TLDR here is you guys will be getting it for free to test it out to see if you like it. You get free access all the way up to September 5th. And as you guys are about to find out, this is kind of what it looks like, comes to you every morning. It is awesome. I have not seen a product like this whatsoever. So Brent will be joining the show at 10 a.m. today to explain to us exactly what it is, how to use it, and ideally how to make better informed decisions in the market. And on that note, dingity ding ding ding, the world's largest casino is now open. Best of luck to all, play responsibly, and if not, have fun. Happy Thursday, happy Thursday. Bullish, 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 bullish. We already hit a new all-time high, and now we're testing my first level. All right. So whatever the dignity, like, congrats, guys. Applause around, like Wall Street type of music now going on. We did hit a new all-time high. So whatever the intraday high is going to be the official new all-time high. And we actually already pushed my first level. 6,500 is the next one. I'm kind of looking for a situation where we push up to it, pull back, put in a higher low, and then that's what I'm looking to trade to be able to ride this bad mamma jamma even higher. That is my personal plan, and we're going to see how it plays out. We're going to see how that one plays out. But momentum, 5 minute. Oh, dude. Oh, shit. Nvidia's already going. Is that the all-time high on it? Sorry, all these alerts are going off, but that's just, yeah, Nvidia almost tagged or did tag the new all-time high. 47. Oh, it was off by a cent. So Nvidia is literally 1 cent away from the all-time high. How funny is that? The boys are back in town, folks. The boys are back in town. Wow. That is good. Where's Nvidia right there? It's already up 1% on the day. Tesla's up 1%. So a couple things, just so you guys know. SPY is trading at 648. Qs are trading at 576. Just important in terms of key levels of the day. This is the gamma structure. Once again, shout out to Spot Gamma. It's pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. Looking for this break right here of 640. That's a lot of negative gamma. And if you dive into it, you're going to realize it is some puts that are basically saying, hey, this is actually kind of supportive. Like we're trying to get over this. So from a gamma distribution level, look for SPY to get above 640 or hold 640, I should say. And then in terms of calls, remember the blue is puts, the yellow or orange or whatever is going to be calls. So watching 650 there, just kind of pointing out some of these major levels. Currently trading, like I said, at 647, 648. So that puts us roughly right around here, kind of in this mess. So if this can actually hold, I'm kind of watching 650. I'm watching this gamma area. Bringing it back to the Qs. So if we look at the exact same distribution, but this time on the Qs, currently trading at 576. Let me zoom in a little bit. 576, 576. That 575, the fact that we're on this side of it, some support. I'm not really seeing much going on the Qs all the way up until 580. The tech sector has a bit of room to run. And I do want to remind you that even though the SPY hit an all-time high today, the Qs have some distance to go. Their all-time high is all the way up here at 583. So when you consider that, it doesn't really make this 580 feel that crazy in terms of a more medium-term swing trade. But remember, a lot of this is completely dependent on does Nvidia hold, and we want to hold this structure, and then we just want to see those beautiful influences of Vanna and Charm, which if you don't really know what that means, just the TLDR is this. The market makers are not going to have to be as hedged on their puts. When you hedge puts, you go short, as in they're not going to have to be as short. If they're not as short, they start to buy back. When you have a natural buyer in the market, you slowly and surely grind to the upside, which is exactly why I personally told you I'm looking to take advantage of this bullish opportunity today. Fuck. Hang on. 500 tick. Dude, this is ripping like no other. Zoom in, enhance, 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 enhance. Oh, if I were paying attention, I might have taken advantage of this long at 21. Okay, some people are trying to dump it at 45. Some people are trying to dump it at 50. We have some sellers at 45, some sellers at 50. Oh, we're only 4 minutes into the day. I always get hoodwinked. I always get bamboozled into wanting to trade this early. And as much as I feel like it looks good, it feels like it always screws me over. I might not have the exact metrics on that, but maybe I should, as much as I want to. I very much want to just hit that long button right now and see what happens. Very much want to do that, but maybe I should have a little bit more self-restraint. Bitcoin, as of right now, not holding 113,000, but let's wait and see. Really what I want to see is how deep is this pullback? Speaking of spot gamma, let's get the flow. Mag 7 thus far. Granted, we don't have that much data. Okay, so the SPY up, down, up, just hit a delta low. Mag 7, slight grind to the upside. Not the biggest that we've ever seen, but hey, it is respectable, which is oddly something I heard a lot in college. Not the biggest they've seen, but respectable. Nvidia pumped. Now we're getting hit a little bit. Maybe today we should really be watching specifically the Nvidia options flow. Okay, so this is like just specific to Nvidia. We don't want this one to roll over because that could actually then end up increasing overall vol. So let's watch this. Let's wait. Restraint, discipline. I know it's a foreign concept for me, I must admit. It is very much a foreign concept, but let's see if maybe patience will pay today. Overall, we're looking pretty decent across the board. Remember, these are just your generic EMAs. There's nothing really too special to it. It just gives us an idea of momentum. Obviously, price structure, you're just looking at recent highs. You're looking at recent lows. You're looking about how they stack up against each other. And as of right now, we just really don't have the most overwhelming amount of data. But let's check this out. Where's NQ? We'll throw up the 1 minute right there. Okay, we have our first low. We have our first high. The question is this going to be a higher low? And if it is, the Mag 7 dipping a little bit. What is the SPY doing? The SPY. Okay, so both are at their delta low. So not necessarily loving that trend, but hey, trends can revert. The momentum is bullish. We're on the bullish side of all momentum here. All right. Patience, patience, patience. We don't really need to rush in anything too crazy, at least not yet. At least not yet. We are above VWAP. VWAP on NQ for my sim funded traders is 23,622. So 622. Maybe a little bit of a double bottom thing going on right here. Nope, never mind. Unless it quickly shoots right back. So huge pump right at market open. Look at that. This is the 500 tick chart. Just rip. Try to get these higher highs and higher lows. Obviously a little bit of a breakdown right here at 935. I'm looking at this low. So we had higher highs and higher lows. Now we have lower highs and lower lows. Obviously very zoomed in. Like I said, I'm on the 500 tick chart. And I'm just wondering what incarnation is going on. What incarnation is going on?
Order submitted.
All right, I'm going to take a stab at it. That was a very slow entry.
Order submitted.
I'm looking at this recovery of 700. I'm risking 25 points. About roughly, give or take. We started selling roughly around 30. Okay, let's see what levels I should be paying attention to. So some sellers here at 15, some sellers at 22, some at 30. I'm trying to unload my first one here at 30. And obviously I'm praying that this point of control at 82 holds. That's this yellow line. So I'm looking at all of this junk. There's junk at 18. We're fast moving today. Okay. Big seller up here at 45. Big seller at 45. We have some at 40. Yeah, they're scattered. Remember, this heat map, the above are sitting sell orders, passive sell orders, targets. Below are sitting passive buy orders. So once again, passive. They're just sitting there waiting to get filled. Now, when you look at the bubbles, these are actual trades going through. The green are aggressive buys. The buyer and the seller are meeting on the ask. The red bubbles are aggressive sells. The seller and the buyer are meeting on the bid. Fuck. 42. I actually want to move this up to there. I want to target the intraday high. That gets hit. I want to move my stop to break even, and then I have a free lotto ticket play. That's my trading plan. If today goes well, that will be my only trade of the day, and I make enough money off of it. I don't have to degenerately overtrade or anything along those lines, but basically I'm playing this structure, this little fake out breakdown. I was a little bit late to get in. I should have gotten in at 93. I should have gotten in just below the $100 rung. Hey, it happens. I wish I were perfect, but I'm not. I'm not Mother Teresa. But anyway, I'm hopeful as long as this doesn't puke. And if it does puke, whatever, I'm protected. I'm using my risk, and you basically are going to have a 50-50 shot. As long as you could protect your risk, pay attention to your upside. It's the market in the short term. When you're trading short-term stuff, scalping, it's a lot of noise. It's a lot of randomness. So most of these successful traders I've met from a day trader scalping world, it's just people who are very, very good at keeping their risk in control. That is really, in my mind, When I say professional, I don't mean it in the actual literal definition. I mean like retail traders versus professional, as in people who are successful versus not in that context. The major difference seems to be people, they go from retail to professional when they just get good at risk management. They're not necessarily better at picking entry opportunities. They're just far, far better. They're borderline obsessed with monitoring their risk. That really seems to be the major differential. And we are running into a serious struggle bus situation right here. Yeah, we are right here. We just have not broken this sell side liquidity at 30. And unfortunately, we just broke this buy side liquidity here at 710. So hopefully that can quickly pop up. But seeing quite a bit on the heat map. Holy shit, 745 is really where they're trying to sell. But to be fair, there's people selling at 30, 35, and 40. So they're just trying to unload at all 5 tick increments right there. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Well, let's see which way it breaks. Let me give you guys a quick sanity check here. As of right now, we have consolidation. We have a lower high and a higher low. Once again, just on the 1 minute chart. So take it with a grain of salt because it's only the 1 minute chart. Right now, right here, you can, by the way, these little carrots, this green carrot, the arrow and the red one that kind of denotes the recent highs and the recent lows. You could get it for free. It's on TradingView. It's called fractals. If you search Williams fractals, you could throw it on your chart, and it just is a visual tool to make it very quick to be like, okay, here's a high, here's a high, here's a low, here's a low, and you get that general sense of which way are they trending. But once again, it's free. You don't have to like pay for it or anything like that. You don't have to pay for it or anything like that. We're looking at the SPY ideally holding the support at yesterday's high, which was the all-time high. And then today's intraday high is obviously the new all-time high. So today's intraday high is going to be the record high. And come on, Tonto. Come on, Tonto. 43, 48 should be at 43 is where I need to get out. 43, and the reason I'm coming up with 43 is literally right here. I see people trying to sell at 45. People try to sell at 45. Me, I say, sick. I'll take that trade and I'll get out a little bit earlier. We just took out this sell side. We took out this sell side. There's one more target, and then I plan on exiting before I see a lot of red right there. Someone's trying to dump 215, 216 contracts right there. And I don't necessarily want to be involved in that if we get up to that region, which is obviously still a big if because I don't know what other people are going to decide to do. Obviously, there's the pending home sales announcement at 10 a.m., but we'll probably be missing that because remember at 10 a.m. today, one of the masterminds behind this entire product suite, Spot Gamma, the Hero tool, the Vol dashboard, the Trace tool, the tape, the Equity Hub, the scanners, their morning and evening breakdowns. They're running out a whole new product called Flow Patrol, and it's very, very cool. It's newsletter-esque, as in it comes to your email inbox seemingly every morning, and they kind of just give you like noteworthy changes. Very cool. I kind of don't want to like front run this or anything because obviously we have the creator coming on to explain what it is. So rather than me doing my best guesswork and risking potentially saying something inaccurate, like I said, the creator of it is going to be coming on and explaining to you guys how you can use it, how you can interpret it, and ideally how you can make some better, more informed, mathematical-based day trading decisions with it. And just so you guys know, it is pinned to the top of chat. It is in the description of the video, and it is free. Free, one of our favorite words in here. It is free up until September 5th for you guys to check it out to see if it is for you. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend checking it out. Like I said, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Let me just make sure I have all the links and whatnot set up as they should be. All right, cool. All right, yeah, like I said, you can find it in the description. It's also pinned to the top of chat. And then if my bot thingies are working right, it should be coming up from Nightbot as well. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, cool. Praying that this is a higher low right here because if we have lower highs, but if this ends up breaking against me, obviously I'm going to get stopped out. And I don't want that to happen. Where are the players currently positioned? They're still, well, were they actually? I was going to say, oh, they're still at 45. Oh, do I just want to take the hit or do I want to? All right. So we have buyers at 70 here. We have buyers at 70. I'm watching this very, very closely. Will the buyers actually step in? Come on. Pump it right back up. Pump it right back up. Let's recapture this point of control. So, come on. Come on. Hold it. Watching very closely to see if this can hold. And let's see how those buyers align with... Okay, the Mag 7, not necessarily loving that trend. SPY, not loving that trend. Things were holding decently for the first 4-ish minutes. And then for the first 15 minutes, we started to get a little bit hit right there. We started to get... Nvidia's getting hit right there. Let me go to this trace tool very quickly. We're still in the support. This is becoming a little bit of negative gamma as people are probably eyeing up 6,500. We do officially have lower highs and lower lows, which means that I'm kind of in the danger zone. It makes me feel like I should just cut this position and just wait and see how things get reestablished. Because if this really is just a generic vomit, I don't necessarily want to get involved in it. The SPY is currently testing the potential green to red move. The Qs are still above the high from yesterday. We have Tesla at 350. We have Nvidia holding 180. Oh, is this just that morning dip that we've been seeing now for how many weeks in a row? This is why I definitively know I've been trading early too much, because how many times have we been seeing this exact same thing where it pops, there's a drop somewhere between 940 and 1010, and then in that half-hour range, the bottom's put in, and then we rip. And yet, every single time, I still feel like I'm getting bamboozled, absolutely bamboozled into throwing that trade on a little too early, when in reality, if you wait, it ends up being fine. Or like if you wait on the trade, you're fine. Or if you wait and have patience to get into a different trade, you're fine. It's just like, I feel like I'm awkwardly straddling the middle where like I'm just trading at the worst times. But from a structural standpoint, lower highs and lower lows as of now on the SPY, you're going to want to, or excuse me, SPX, you're going to want to see it take out basically yesterday's high, or right around 6487, 6488. You're going to want to see it pump above this. Basically, you want support to come in right here at yesterday's close, which is not by any means the craziest area for buyers to come in. This is where I should be throwing on the long. In terms of self-criticism, to talk out loud and explain where I should be throwing it on, with my bullish bias, this is the opportunity to be doing it. It truly is. Actually, can I fire off a quick trade here? Let's go to Vanquish, log in. Come on, faster. Nope, not that one. Web Trader, here's what I need. Yes, log in. Did I miss it? Not quite yet. Not quite yet. All right, cool. That gives me time to prep up what I need to do. All right. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. I haven't fired the trade off yet. I just want to get it ready. Ready. Not liking this trend at the moment. My position is very much not liking this trend at the moment. These lower highs and lower lows, can it catch itself? Right here, the obviously larger trend, looking at something like the 30-minute, the 4-hour, the daily, the bulls are in control. Right now, we are seeing a bit of an opposite reaction, a bit of an opposite trend on the 1 minute. But sometimes I have found that this is actually my favorite setup, is when you identify the trend on a larger time frame, 30-minute, 4-hour daily, you see the opposite trend in the shorter time frame, such as the 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, and then you're looking for that reversion for the short term to go back in phase with the longer term. And the reason I like that so much is you're trading with trend, but the fact that you had the patience, which I obviously did not this morning, to wait for the short term pullback, well, that's winning, because in reality, what you're getting there is a less risk, because the fact that it pulled back, you're using whatever the recent swing point is as your risk. So ideally a low risk, high reward type of opportunity for you to be able to get in. So let's see how this is going today. And we are quickly vomiting. Quickly vomiting. Are we going for that 600 rung? Are we going for 600?
Order filled.
We are, what was that? Take profit probably. Come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What are we doing? All right, so we're just below VWAP right now, and we're also tagging the closing value from yesterday. This might be an interesting inflection point. Do buyers step in right here? And a more important question is, can I improve my average right here? Watching very closely, literally right at VWAP, right at this key level. How's the flow looking? Is this just going to be that classic thing? They dump it in the morning, it bases, and then we rock it anyway. All right. How do I want to handle this? Oh, how's the... So here's the Mag
Order
7.
Filled.
Low.
Order filled.
It is the low delta. I'm really thinking about maybe just waiting for the re-entry. I'm really thinking about waiting for the re-entry on this
Order
one.
filled.
Yeah, I'm going to wait. Or should I throw on one contract? Maybe cut the size down? I think this is smarter to wait. I think I'm going to do what I think is the appropriate decision, obviously, of just wait and wait and wait rather than riding it out. But I think it's just going to be this game of identifying whatever the base is, especially because this is literally what happened yesterday. Can I show you guys on the bigger screen? Nvidia, right here. Yesterday, we saw Nvidia drop. Finally, the delta stopped puking, and it took up until about 950, created its base, and then as Nvidia had relief, the whole market had relief. Same thing on the SPY. Like you're going to see, I mean, they might be running back yesterday's playbook. The SPY was a bit stronger in that whole event. The Qs were not. Same thing. Even though we had a pretty bullish day, the Qs right around till 9:48. So it really doesn't feel that different. Maybe today ends up being different, but just because I don't know how big this dip is going to be, it feels smarter to just kind of wait with no position. And then in the event of the start of recovery, same thing, risking the recent low and just kind of going from there. So it doesn't feel like we have to, I guess there's nothing new under the sun. We don't have to do some like crazy trades or anything like that. We don't have to do anything nuts. PCE report, that's not today, that's tomorrow. PCE report comes out at 8:30 a.m. ET tomorrow. Comes out at 8:30 a.m., an hour before the market opens tomorrow. Nvidia back down to 178, down 2%. So some people are using this to very much get out. According to the Hero Flow, the put delta is dropping, the call delta, like they're both dropping. The calls for tomorrow. So maybe it's probably the vol crush, if I had to say, because we obviously know that Nvidia has a massive degenerate support base who, I mean, we even covered it yesterday during the earnings call of someone on Wall Street Bets put $625,000 in calls. That's a lot of long calls that could easily get unloaded. So, I think this is just some temporary pain. We just have to wait for the delta on Nvidia to stop dropping. This is having a huge influence on the Mag 7 delta, probably quite a bit on the NASDAQ. But if this can just stabilize, which yesterday we saw the stabilization, it took about 20 minutes. And then from there, maybe we can see a little bit more going on. What time is it? Yeah, patience. I think I made the right decision. Discipline, took a little bit of that loss there, and then what I'll do is just wait for this potential bounce and then just rock it from there. It's trying to form a bottom. Let's see if it does. Let's see if it actually can. Let's see. Long at Nvidia low. Well, how do you know it's so low? It's not showing signs of stopping yet. I mean, you could have said that at 950, 951, 952, 953, 954. It's the low until you go lower, brother. I'm looking at this structure right here. Can it start to recapture 574. Remember, there's some stuff at 575, but on the Qs, my reach target, once again, reach target, here we go. We're starting to pick up now. Literally, this is just the playbook from yesterday. And this seems measurably no different. No different whatsoever. No different. So just wait for that low risk, high reward opportunity. Assume it's 50-50. Respect your risk and just rock it from there. All right. All right. The vol, hang on, where is vol today? VIX is picking up. So, I mean, overall, like in the grand scheme of things, we're still extraordinarily low, but relative to yesterday, it is picking up. So we're not quite seeing those Vanna and charm effects that I want to, at least not yet. Not yet. We are SPX. All right, we are now officially in the transition zone, and we're back below the high of the Jerome Powell, Jackson Hole talk. So we're in here. Some interesting targets are 60 and 58 if you happen to be fading this. I am not of the mindset of fading it. I'm of the mindset of, okay, I see these lower highs, I see these lower lows. It tells me in the very short term on the 1 minute, that is by definition a bearish trend. You can see that in NQ as well. By definition, lower highs, lower lows. We try to get this breakout right here at 942. It did not work. And then from there, it broke these lows. So clearly a succession of lower highs, lower lows. 1 minute chart, by definition, S&P 500, NASDAQ, that on the 1 minute is bearish. I'm waiting for the 1 minute to kind of break a recent high. Then when we first see that higher low, I'm looking for that opportunity to take a long and see if we could bounce all the way back up. Obviously, I'm going to feel way more comfortable about it if it also aligns with some positive delta flow on the Mag 7, on the S&P 500, on the NASDAQ. You could use that as your sanity check. But as of this, VIX, hang on. Just kind of, basically, we're just awkwardly waiting here until Nvidia stops getting hit this morning. Just, you're seeing this get smashed right there. So when this can finally stabilize, that's when it's ideally going to have a shot. But as of this moment, it is not stabilizing. It was actually looking really good this morning. And apparently that was just a brutal bull trap. A brutal bull trap. So patience. And I have not done this trade yet. Once again, I probably shouldn't even do that strike anymore. Probably should not do that strike anymore. Probably should be something more like, what? We'll see it in real time. We'll decide it in real time, but just waiting for this. And while you're waiting, if Nvidia doesn't seemingly bottom and start to pick back up, then you never got into the trade anyway. So it's all right. No harm, no foul. No harm, no foul. Bitcoin, I would have much preferred that holds 113. How is the Russell doing? The Russell is getting hit a lot less. Obviously, all three major indices, the SPY, the Qs, and the Russell, are all taking a bit of a hit. The Russell trying to get a bounce in when the SPY and the Qs, as of now, are not. But remember, there's a lot of time left in the game. A lot of time left in the game today. All right, let me switch this up for 1 second. All right, we have that. All right. Oops, sorry, hang on. Why did that disappear? All right, that should be back for you guys. We are gonna get rocking. If I can find where in the world my camera is. If I can find where in the world my camera is. All right. All right, your connection is secure. All right, I think I found it. All right, folks, very quickly, as we're about to get rocking here with a specialty guest, let me bring your attention to what's pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. We are here to speak with Brent, one of the co-founders of Spot Gamma. brand new products. So we've seen the Trace tool, we've seen the Hero tool, we've seen the Vol dashboard, we've seen so much cool stuff from them, truly, in my humble opinion, giving the best option to analytics that is possible. I truly think it's second to none. Well, good news is they're actually rolling out with an entirely new product. This one's called Flow Patrol, and we're about to get rocking with it. And instead of me trying to butcher the explanation of what it is and what it isn't, let's turn this over and let me make sure we are all good. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Brent, very, very quickly. I can see you there. Bubbles note taker. Hang on. Something's messing up our screen.
That seems to follow me around. I can't get rid of it.
Am I able to kick the Bubbles note taker very quickly? Hi, I'm Bubbles note taker.
I don't know if I added that or your boy Matt added that.
Chat, rename, make a... Here we go. Got it. All right. No, don't report. All right, we are good. And let me switch this up so everyone can see you. All right. Here we are, folks. This is Brent. As I alluded to, we're here to talk about a new product from Spot Gamma. But before we get into the exciting world of Flow Patrol, which I've been reading that so much lately, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of initial questions of just like what you think about the crazy market right now. And I'm sure you've been tracking what in the world's going on with volatility and whatnot. So maybe if we could start there to get a little bit more of an expert opinion rather than my own for everyone today.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, the positioning in Nvidia is pretty interesting. If you look at it into yesterday, there's a lot of what we call positive gamma in Nvidia. What does that mean? People sell tons of calls against Nvidia stock, which is counterintuitive, but the way that the world works is that you naturally own the biggest stocks in the S&P. I'm talking about the everyday investor, and they want to get yield on that. So what they do, they systematically sell calls. And so if you look at Apple or Tesla or Amazon, Meta, all these stocks have big call positions above. And that's what is happening in Nvidia. So Nvidia has this kind of like sticky capped upside to it. And that kind of prevents a big rally in this spot, right? And so it's kind of a funny thing because there's like that spider sense you get sometimes where you look at Vol this morning, right? And the Nvidia earnings are kind of a non-event. Seems like, stock is flat, not much is going on. S&P Vol was down a lot today, right? VIX was contracting a bunch, which tells us that things seem pretty safe. But there's like this like spidey sense you get sometimes as a trader that something feels a little bit weird. And so, it's interesting this morning because the Nvidia earnings didn't seem like they were that great. I mean, I'm not a fundamental analyst, but they weren't knocking the cover off the ball, and there's a little bit of doubt creeping in, and so you see what happens now. There's this kind of like measured move down in Nvidia, and I think what this is a lack of bullishness as opposed to bearishness, which is two different things. Sounds like the same thing, but it's not. And so what we see today as the stock opens is there's a bunch of call selling in Nvidia, and so you're starting to see that kind of pressure the stock a little bit. And that kind of is counterintuitive because VIX is coming down, and if VIX comes down, that means the market should go up. We talk about this about Vanna all the time. So the overall market is kind of saying, breathing a sigh of relief, but Nvidia is getting call selling, and Nvidia is 8% of the S&P 500 and 14% of the NASDAQ. So it's very hard to have a stock market that, sort of stable to rallying while its number one component is kind of under some pressure, right? So I think there's some churn right now. It's a little bit of a confusing signal. My worry is that Nvidia has downside to 165, I think. And so this could get a little slippery. And if it does get slippery, then the rest of the market's probably going to slide lower as well, just because Nvidia is in a large way like the S&P 500, right? It's like Nvidia is the AI sector, and the AI sectors as a whole is like 35% of the S&P 500. So if you start to like drag down 35% of the S&P 500, guess what? The whole index is going down, right? Because there's not another growth story. And so it felt like a really clean and easy morning when I was writing our morning analysis, but you just get that spidey sense that it's just not quite that easy, right? And then I will just say the other dynamic here is that we're heading into a 3-day weekend. People generally don't want to buy a bunch of puts into a 3-day weekend. So there's a bunch of forces here, and it would have been great if Nvidia just sort of like met expectations or exceeded them, and it was all clean, and vol gets crushed, and we have meme mania and all that. But it feels a little chippy. I think by like 10:30 we'll kind of know what the direction is. and things will settle out a little bit. But the signals are a little mixed right now, I would say, and so we just got to wait for things to clear up a little bit.
That's absolutely excellent. Right before you were joining, I was kind of talking about that of like, we had that initial 1 minute pop and now things are bleeding. And the question is, if Nvidia can stabilize, then from there we actually have a shot. And you were even calling this out in your morning newsletter of, we're just going to see these effects of vol crush, and then especially because of the 3-day weekend and just the fact that the charm and Vanna influences, these market makers are going to start buying back. But it's a huge if. Now, before we get into the major thing, and I do want to talk about, you were talking about selling calls, and I want to talk about sell to open or sell to close. But before we get to that, is it also kind of an interesting day of maybe spidey senses of, at a certain point, does today matter when we have the PCE tomorrow and we know the entire world is just trying to figure out monetary policy and the bets? Like, it feels like tomorrow's inflation report is going to be so telling. Today could be an amazing day and we could gap down. Today could be a horrible day and we could gap up tomorrow. It feels like 1, 2, 3. We have Nvidia's report, we have the PCE tomorrow, and then next week with the shortened week, next Friday, we have the unemployment numbers. Like, it feels like right now, is this new high stable and we push higher, or is this going to be the true high water mark? It feels like it's just the measurement of those 3 events.
Yeah, in some ways I agree with you. And well, what I would say is that the market has had a lot of chances to get weaker. Powell's report, kind of like the Nvidia earnings, like when Powell gave a speech, it was like immediately everyone's like, that was dovish, we're getting the cut, it's great. And then there was a lot of hand wringing over the weekend. The macro people like, that wasn't dovish, it was hawkish. So I think at the end of the day, what you get is a situation where, unless we are clubbed over the head with some kind of like 3 standard deviation PCE print or some other macro thing that we just can't possibly ignore it, then it's just going to be, the assumption is that we're going to get the cut in September, and that means that the next 3 weeks are essentially risk-free. When I say risk-free, so much of flow now is just 0 DTE, right? It's sort of like, what is my risk for today? No risk, right? What does inflation matter to me for today? Nothing. Yeah. So I'm going to buy my 0 DTE calls or go into my meme stock or whatever it is. And I think over the next month, you could get that, right? Because you don't want to long options over this weekend. So if PCE is like mildly warm, that's not today's problem or tomorrow's problem, and it's Labor Day weekend, so I'll worry about that later. Okay. And so what I kind of think is going to happen, and what I feel like is we're setting up for, is the S&P is just going to grind. It's going to be very dull into September, unless we're clubbed over the head with some multi-standard deviation trade. Then you just have these passive flows that come into the market. I mean, Nvidia announced a $60 billion, I think, of additional now stock buybacks, right? Stock buybacks are just huge. There's still an 87 to 90% odds of a rate cut in September. So if you just don't think too hard about it, you go, we're going to get a rate cut and there's these buybacks, and why should I own puts like over this next month? Because the earliest that something material happens is probably going to be September FOMC. September FOMC is on the 17th. That's the same day as VIX expiration. That's 2 days before what is likely to be one of the biggest options expirations ever. So there's this huge moment, right? This time that's lining up, like the 3rd week of September, where you go, okay, like if risk is going to materially change, that seems like the moment, right? Because you could really fully realize all of the bullishness, right? Vol contracts all the way. Stocks go to all-time highs. And the data on rate cuts that I've seen recently show that oftentimes when you get that first rate cut, when that rate cut actually comes, that's not always necessarily a very bullish signal for stocks. So I think that you could really see a situation where people just go, look, the next 3 weeks are kind of risk-free. Powell and these rate issues are like a September, October problem. And so we can just sort of like rally on these short-dated flows, chase open or small caps or whatever the kind of current meme is, and worry about the cloudy skies of September, October, later, a couple weeks later.
Very interesting. Obviously, appreciate that kind of like holistic view of what's going on. And as I alluded to, I kind of now want to take a step back. Before, you were talking about Nvidia call selling, and this is going to make a lot more sense, listeners. Check out what's pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. We're about to talk about something called Flow Patrol, and I've been reading some of the stuff you've been putting out there. I've also been listening to like a couple of your own, like, I guess, breakdowns of Flow Patrol and whatnot. And I kind of want to get into this concept of Flow Bros, which I believe you own the patent right on, and you own that. That's your copy right there. But before, you were talking about Nvidia call selling, and I guarantee you right now, if we took a pause and we went over to Twitter, we're going to see someone post an astonishing number of $8 million of Nvidia calls sold. And what's interesting about this, and if you happen to be newer to the world of trading, especially options, when someone is saying selling or buying, in the world of options, you are afforded the ability to actually open or close by doing that. You can create a new position by buying calls, but you could also create a new position by selling calls. So obviously, that is a huge, huge thing. Like when someone says, hey, 8 million sold, well, were they sold to create or were they sold to close? So, and that's the concept, just so you guys know, there's some acronyms: STO, sell to open, STC, like sell to close, that type of thing. Same thing with buys. So with that, I've seen you've been on a little bit of an individual campaign here to kind of clean up that aspect of FinTwit of saying, hey guys, like maybe we should get out real information or more, it's technically accurate because yes, that much was sold, but in terms of the influence, I think sometimes people are missing the mark on it. So could you dive into a little bit more of like the overall effort here, and then we could really get into exactly what Flow Patrol truly is?
Yeah, and I'm generally I think I'm a pretty nice guy, and I don't like to throw shade at people because people make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes, but the reason I get upset about these flow bros, there are these people that post like big trades that come across on the options feeds, right? And a lot of times they'll construe whatever the print is as a bullish or bearish print, even though they don't have any idea that it was a bullish or bearish print. It was just a trade, right? So to give you an example, Matt, if I bought 100,000 calls from you, Nvidia calls, you could say that was very bullish because Brent bought them, but Matt, you sold them, right? So
yeah.
Are you smarter than me? Or like, who's on what side of the trade? Like, what are you talking about? And so I take issue with that because I can tell from experience, like I've made stupid jokes before on Twitter, and then people be like, oh, I bought like an option because of your stupid sarcastic tweet. And I was like, oh geez, like I thought that was like this really dumb thing that no one would actually do, and they did it. So like I know people do trade off of the stuff that gets posted, and that's why I take issue with it, because you're like, I don't know if it's intentionally misleading people. I don't think they're intentionally misleading people, but they're misleading people, which is why I get like annoyed and kind of I'm a little bit of a jerk to these guys. So the point is that if you actually look at the flow, right, and you see, is it hedge funds buying? Because when you post a big trade, the assumption is that some big hedge fund bought these options, or some big option, bought a bunch of calls or bought a bunch of puts. And if some giant hedge fund is buying a bunch of calls, like, okay, that is legitimately interesting information. I would love to know that. That's valuable. But the fact is that the vast majority of flow, the vast majority of stuff that's trading is oftentimes a market maker to another market maker, or it's a bank adjusting some risk with another bank. It's all of this stuff that doesn't actually have material consequence. Additionally, a ton of the options flow now is high frequency day trading. What do I mean by that? It's somebody who comes in, they're buying a ton of Nvidia or Tesla calls right now, and they'll sell them in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's not actually a material position that's being held, right?
Gotcha.
So the flow that I think should care about, at least me, the flow that I care about is I want to know that somebody bought a position with some view that extends past today, right? You want to buy next week's calls? That's interesting. You buy calls that are 3 months out from now? That's really interesting, especially if it's in some obscure name that we all don't know about, right? There's some guys that do this interesting where it's like, hey, somebody bought a bunch of calls before, an earnings event or some weird piece of news or whatever. And, those are the things that people generally gravitate to as super interesting. And what Flow Patrol is doing, and the data that we have access to in our algo now, is we can tell you with a high degree of confidence that a trade was actually bought. Like you mentioned, calls were actually bought. Or were the calls shorted and you thought they were bought? And was it actually a hedge fund that was doing it and not just some kind of market maker, right? So we put together this Flow Patrol report. We're going to kind of rank it on the Flow Bros a little bit because their data is kind of bad. The key here is, and the one caveat with that is that I can't tell you right when the trade takes place, right? Because nobody knows right when the trade hits the tape what exactly happened. But at night, we run our models and we look at the open interest, we look at the positioning, we look at this new data we have, and we could tell with a high degree of confidence, like, oh yeah, hedge fund actually bought that. They really did buy those puts, right? Or they really did cover some call trade that they had, and with Tesla's up at 350 and they sold a bunch of calls, right? So that's the kind of information that's really interesting. And the value of that is knowing that it was a hedge fund, right? Because I just want to reiterate that. Why is that interesting, right? If a hedge fund buys something, not only is a sentiment indicator, which is valuable, but the second one is that's the flow that's likely to be dynamically hedged. So what do I mean by that? We're all familiar with gamma squeezes, right? What is a gamma squeeze? Everyone buys calls. If the stock goes up, market makers have to keep buying stock, right, to maintain their hedging. So we're trying to identify that flow. If another market maker bought these calls and sold them to another market maker, there's probably not any hedging flow associated with that, right? That was their hedge. Like, I don't know, there's just nothing to do. It's like, it's interesting that a big trade took place, but actually has no value in terms of our sentiment or hedging flows, right? So that's the reason we're trying to identify this stuff. And what you find when you wade through all this and you kind of like take the cream, skin the cream off of all of the options data, there's a pretty concentrated number of sizable positions that shift on any given day, but you get highlights in really interesting trades. And then the second one is there's a lot of things that are spreads, right? I don't think enough people appreciate this. And what I've taken from looking at Flow Patrol so much is that a lot of these hedge funds that you think will just maybe buy a call or buy a put, they're spending a decent amount of time structuring spread trades, which I think is a good lesson for everybody here, right? How can I get the cheapest exposure for my idea, right? Or how do I bring in the most income for the options I want to sell or whatever it is? And I think that the Flow Patrol report really highlights how in depth or kind of intricate that is, right? Putting on these spread trades versus just kind of like outright, i.e. long only exposure.
Yeah, obviously you're teeing it up in a very interesting way because obviously all traders just want like true actionable information or just insightful, like truly insightful information. And folks, once again, if you are listening, you can get this for free. It is pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. You can kind of give it a test run and see if you like it before we dive into the nitty gritty here. And as you guys are doing that, just one quick note, Brent, in terms of why they're doing it, I really think that this is just a classic engagement bait thing. And like, you can almost time it perfectly. Is all these accounts that do it, whether it is videos or on Twitter or on Reddit, whatever it is, they always wait for the movement and then they go back and try to find a trade that explains it. So like, I don't know, yesterday I think there was $100 billion worth of like notional value traded on Nvidia. It's not hard to find a put that was worth 10 million in notional. And they're like, look at someone always knows. And that's always the thing is they're trying to be like, everyone knows, everyone knows. It's like just inherently when you trade $1 billion, yeah, you're going to find like a $10 million trade. And I don't know. I've even recently seen people trying to call out calls. And then I look at it on your tool and then I'll realize it was a portion of like a call credit spread. I was like, you are literally saying the opposite. You're trying to say this is amazingly bullish. That person is betting on it actually staying neutral or coming down. So like it's accurate because yes, that trade hit the tape. But like, I think they're just taking like very, very much the wrong, I guess, information from it. And like you said, it's not materially impactful. And obviously that is seemingly what Flow Patrol you're trying to do is like, no, here's the legit difference. Sounds like you have some complicated models running at night to do an examination of the change in open interest to see what was just like, I guess, froth in the trading day, the noise versus like, oh, no, like this person truly established a new position. So folks, as you are signing up for that, obviously, if you could dive a little bit more into this and like show us, in your opinion, the best way to utilize this new tool.
Yeah, and a kind of funny story about that, people cherry picking positions is there is what I believe is a funding trade. This trade was very popular in 2023, and we saw it come up a little bit before Jackson Hole, which is interesting. But there's essentially these really deep in the money Tesla puts that would sell or trade, I should say. And so someone was flagging that as like someone was buying like billions of dollars worth of Tesla puts. And it turns out that when you look at that data, what they're doing is a delta neutral trade, meaning they're buying puts, but they're trading it with stock because the whole point is to try to essentially arbitrage interest rates. It has like nothing to do with like somebody saying that this is the mother of all, Tesla shorts, right? And so, that's just the kind of stuff that you just, freeze and say, hold on here.
Yeah.
This is a little bit off. So hopefully you can, I didn't give you the right screen, did I?
If you share yours, it should pop up. There we go. We can see it.
There we go. I gave you a background of a redwood forest. Here we are. Okay, so
before you get rocking though, could you,
as you mentioned,
could you just zoom in?
We're putting it out for another week. We've had it out there for about 2 weeks. And the feedback's been incredible. It's really kind of blown me away. And so what we're doing here is we have our proprietary positioning. This is like the buy side positioning that we put together. And then we actually use some AI to sort of run the analysis on us. So we run all the statistics, we run all the modeling, and then we allow AI to go out there and like pull the news, analyze the data, and put it all together. And this is one of those things where it's like, hey, this AI is pretty helpful because it's covering 3,000 to 3,500 different stocks every day, right? And so for one person to do all that in a matter of 10 minutes is nearly impossible. So we do obviously fact check this report and make sure everything in here looks accurate. But it's pretty neat that this is all AI generated analysis. And to your point before, what we're doing here is reading whether people are opening or closing trades, because that's a critical thing to understand, right? And then what are the sectors, what are the names that are most interesting? Now, you know, I'm sure that OPEN is one of these really kind of memey stocks right now. It's trading incredible volume on a daily basis. And so, you know, that's the report starts off with very large exposure there. And then what we're doing is we're giving you some statistical data here to say, hey, based on about the last month of data, how extreme is this? So this gamma exposure is 99th percentile. So you could say, okay, that's pretty big, large gamma exposure. What does that mean? That means that traders are long calls or long puts. When I say traders, hedge funds, right? And or big retail traders, they're long options there. So that's interesting, right? You see some bearish delta in ETFs and put buying. What does delta matter? Delta you can think of as stock, right? So if it's bearish delta, it means that there was some short stock or equivalent of short stock kind of bearish pressure in those ETF names. There's a big volatility trade here in NEO. NEO has I guess ES8 is their car. I just had to look that one up. I didn't know what that was. So there's people positioning in front of that. And then the last thing you can see here is some, I think this is Brazil, and then some tech pressure, particularly in front of TSM. Well, TSM is related to Nvidia, right? So somebody closed up a trade. I'll show you in that. And so when I'm going through this stuff, the idea here is, or the point here is idea generation, right? Is there stocks, is there names that I can flag that are interesting and I can trade, right? I might be the type of trader who is into NEO or knows something about NEO, or maybe I'm not, but I know that if Vega or sensitivity to volatility is increasing over there, that as an options trader, I might go check that out to see if there's something interesting that I can do over there, right? And also, you'll note here, strong bearish delta, right? You go, oh man, like that could be bad, right? But what we'll show you in this TSM is somebody's actually covering a trade, right? So you generate bearish pressure because somebody was short, was long calls, and then they cover that trade, right? So that looks like it's bearish. So knowing whether people are opening or closing a trade is also, you know, critical to this. So VIX trades always get a lot of coverage. People going, huge VIX calls traded today. What's going on there? So you can see here, the type is calls, right? A lot of VIX activity yesterday in front of the Nvidia earnings. But bought to cover. So what is this? Somebody closed up their VIX calls yesterday. That's what this is, right? Calls, bought to cover. You can see that right here. They also had this on, sold to cover right here. So this was a VIX call spread, and we identify this later that was closed up. You can see that also with these 4750 calls. If you watch this yesterday on the tape, you go, oh my gosh, somebody just traded 160,000 VIX calls like they're preparing for the end, right? Mm-hmm. But what did they actually do here? They sold those calls to cover. So they were long them and they closed them. So it cuts through the noise a little bit when you know exactly what somebody is doing, right? And that is really, I think, critical to know and to understand. We give you the analysis of single stock positioning on the day. These are the biggest trades that occurred. Again, there's that NEO that was quite popular, but here's that Taiwan semi order I mentioned. So you can see this is a leg trade. And so the flow bros out there may mislabel that or misconstrue what this is. But what this was is somebody bought to cover. So they were short, right? They owned puts. They bought those to cover. And that was against long calls. So this was sold to cover the calls, sold to cover the puts. So somebody was directionally short Taiwan semi, and then they closed that position up, right? So again, if you had just seen 25,000 puts, you would be like, uh-oh, someone's buying huge puts in front of Nvidia earnings. And that's actually kind of not the case. EWZ happens to be the dominant positioning here. I don't trade the international markets a whole lot. Some of you may, so that's really interesting. And then you also see a lot of HYG, which is the bond ETF. So a bunch of trades in there. So we go through all this sort of stuff. I want to jump down a little bit. We go through gamma positioning and Vega positioning. We cover this in depth in a couple of videos, and we can share those with you. By the way, if you have any questions on this, email, and this email goes to me, flowpatrol@spotgamma.com. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But I want to jump down to largest premium trades, right? Because that is an area that gets a lot of attention, as you mentioned before. So these are the trades that have the biggest dollar premium, which is right here. So you can see, hey, what's interesting? A lot of big trades in silver yesterday. Actually looks like people kind of getting directionally short. So in this case, somebody sold calls right here for the 1125s at 27, and they bought puts. So you kind of go look at the silver charts and say, is this thing starting to top out? What's happening over there? Looks like a lot of activity. What's happening in that space, right? So again, idea generation. Walgreens got kicked out of the S&P 500. there's actually some pretty sizable trades taking place around that. So you can go, okay, how are bigger funds choosing to trade this exit from the S&P 500? Ethereum and IBIT, which is Bitcoin. Tons of flows now in these ETFs. They're some of the most liquid options complexes now, these crypto spaces. So you're getting a lot of data in there in terms of where really big funds are opening and closing different positions in the crypto space, which I think is useful. And then if we do get any big whale trades in terms of the SPX and NDX, they're going to show up on this screen here, right? This is a pretty quiet set of trades for the day. But what we're doing here is trying to show you like, hey, this is where, the big boys are kind of playing. Did somebody buy 50,000 S&P puts for next week or something like that? That would all show up in here. The biggest trades yesterday was essentially a 0 DTE spread, as you can see right here. Somebody bought the 6650 calls and sold the 6570 calls, right? So there's that spread right there. Looks like someone's trying to bring in a little bit of income in front of the Nvidia earnings. All right. I'm talking a lot, Matt. Hopefully you're still with me.
Yes.
I want to get to the part that I think is probably most interesting for your user base, and it's this unusual options positions. Everyone kind of knows of the, unusual trades and the whale guy that puts stuff out. But what this is actually showing you is statistically stuff that is unusual in names that don't normally come up. And so when I look at something like an Oscar, right, what happened here? Somebody was long a bunch of puts and they closed them. Okay. So maybe they think a bottom is in. You look at something like Bill. Bill was interesting because they reported earnings yesterday. Not sure what the stock is doing, but that one is now popped up with a pretty sizable put trade there, for example. XP. Don't even know what that ticker is. But again, some buy to cover trades there. So what you'll see here oftentimes is some big positions coming into an earnings event or maybe a news event, right? That would be flagged in here. You're seeing some of the interesting spread positions like here with Riot. A lot of the spreads we're able to flag for you via our algo that it is some type of a short strangle or part of a larger spread trade. And so what you're going to see in here are, again, unusual positions being taken, not unusual trades, but actually legitimate unusual positions that show up. And this can open a lot of interesting kind of idea generation opportunities. And then I'll close just simply, there's a lot of charts in here that put more stuff into context. But I wanted to highlight this last area of the chart. And it is I call this the day trading. I call it the HFT for high frequency trading flow. But what this chart is doing is it's showing you the total volume for a given ETF or stock, right? And then what we're showing here is the absolute change in our position. We call this synthetic open interest, but it's the absolute change in positioning. So I mentioned Walgreens, right? WBA on the news yesterday traded 1.7 million contracts. For a single stock, not talking Nvidia and Tesla, take those two out, but for a single stock to trade over 1 million contracts a day, that is a lot of volume. That's a ton of volume. Very unusual. The total open interest change, so buy-side entities, that's retail and hedge funds that actually changed a position or held a position overnight, is only 600 contracts. So 1.7 million trade, open interest changed was only 4,000. So forget spot gamma modeling. What was just total open interest changing was only 4,000 and 685 contracts. That's it. And this is a $10 stock, right? Is all that actually changed. So if you looked at that volume yesterday, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like there's so much happening in this thing. It's just crazy. But actually no one's putting a stake in the ground saying like, this is what this means for Walgreens, boots after today, right? Because if you had an opinion after today, you would hold the contracts, right? You would have some size that was put on. And so you look at through all these names and you could see that there's a ton of trading, but not a lot of that trading actually forms into open interest where it's somebody actually saying, hey, this is a position I'm taking, right? I have a view here, a long dated view, a 1 month view, a 2-day view, right? That would show up in open interest, and a lot of times it doesn't. So I want to make sure that people understand that, hey, yes, there can be tons of volumes and things, but a lot of times that is sort of high frequency day trading and not necessarily a valid longer term signal.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Obviously, I'm very early on to using this tool, but as we've gone through some of these, what's jumping out to me is actually the Russell 2000. Even on that one, like there were legitimate trades right there. It's near the bottom. It feels as if the flow ratio, the lower it is, the more impactful it is. Like something is actually changing, like underneath the hood. And then the other things you've shown, it just feels like the Russell or the ETF IWM is showing up more and more and more, which makes sense because we're in this narrative of like rate cuts and what's going on. And if money's cheaper, theoretically, old wisdom says that as money's cheaper, smaller companies do better. And so we're graphically seeing it on the chart with higher highs and higher lows. But to see the flow underneath it of not just being one of these BS flow bro things of like, no, legitimately people are attempting to get exposure to this, I find to be interesting.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I think that's the thing that happens for me when I go through the report is kind of like what jumps out at me as like the theme, right? Like the model, the AI does a great job of categorizing a lot of things. And, you want to go in here and say, well, what is the thing that I'm seeing? And for you, you flag, obviously, the IWMs is the real interesting thing. And, I agree with you. You'll see that sort of stuff percolate to the top as to what the big signal is. And a lot of times you'll see in the news like, hey, IWM is breaking out or this name is getting a lot of attention or whatever. And if you see it in the positioning, it gives you that extra layer of confidence that, you can take that narrative and there's actually positions kind of running behind it. And so I do totally agree with you in terms of like how you're looking at this and the things to think about. There is a consistent put roll, I would say. Well, I wouldn't. It's not that I would say this is actually what you see happening on a daily basis. So there's a pretty big put trade that is just continuously rolling up, right? As IWM starts to rally, which I think is quite interesting. So I read that flow as someone's probably long a bunch of IWMs, right? And they roll those puts up. Why do I think it's not just someone betting on a crash? Because that can get very expensive just to continuously roll puts higher, right? You're just peeing away a lot of premium on a daily basis if you're just doing that, kind of naked, right? So, I think that sort of backs the idea, right? And that's a little bit of a second level sort of analysis or thought. But to your point, different things will percolate for different people. I know there's all sorts of people like to focus on different aspects of the market. This PDD trade is quite interesting, I think, because somebody bought 10,000 of the December 120 calls, for example. And I know this PDD had some pretty interesting volume yesterday. So that's a pretty sizable trade, right? That's a $13 million trade. That's one of the ones where you go like, hey, that stands out because who's got 13 million bucks to put behind a stock?
Wow.
Maybe the biggest people on Wall Street bets, but more likely than not, it's some type of a hedge fund, right? And so, that's an unusual name with a pretty big position. It's definitely bought to open. You can see what that open interest is there. You can see what the stock's been doing. So, to me, again, this is the type of trade where you go, okay, like, let me go check this out, right? Is there a trade here? How does the chart look? What are those other information I can put together on this? And again, that idea generation, I think, is really pretty valuable.
No, this is absolutely awesome. Now, very quickly before we let you go, folks, if you're just joining in right now, it is pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. You could get this for free. If you have follow-up questions, I believe you are doing a webinar at 1 p.m. today, the normal spot gamma one. And then I know you have some specialty Flow Patrol ones next week. So if you're in the audience, I will make sure to get those links to you so you can use it accordingly. But once again, Flow Patrol, free access for all of you listening right now. And like I said, my one final question, just to help the audience a little bit. Do you personally think the biggest insights from this are just like, okay, per day, I'm getting ready for the day? Or do you like to consume this data like day over day and be like, okay, for the past 5 days in a row, I've been seeing interesting bets on silver? Or is it for you just like one report and that's how I'm using it for the day? Or is it a little bit more of like a longitudinal thing?
It's a great question. So what I've learned, I've been working on this report for about 6 months now. And you, like anything else, if you read it every day, you start to pick up on themes. So there's the common themes of, some big people have been buying calls over the last several days. I just noticed like tech continues to be bullish. Different tech names continue to be bullish, both in the mega cap stuff and in the smaller stuff. So there's that theme that follows, and we give you a little bit of that context in the charts. But you start to realize like, what is a big position? What is not a big position? Like, how are things adjusting? Like, there's this consistent put roll, right, in the IWM. So you're able to put together these consistent or persistent flows or persistent themes, which is important. So there's that day-to-day piece. And I'll be honest, like not every day is there something where you're like, oh my God, this is the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen. But you'll go through like that PDD trade and like, okay, there was that one little thing I found as well, right? So I think it's important to sort of scan it every day, get used to looking at the sizes that are trading, the positions that are changing. So you just sort of like get your sea legs and get running with it. So that's the daily thing. And then on the intraday thing, there's always that one or two interesting trades that pop out. Again, like that PDD that I stand out as interesting, but also sometimes it's the lack of information, right? Like I think tomorrow's report is going to be extremely important because tomorrow's report is going to tell us how everybody adjusted to Nvidia today, right?
Gotcha.
Nvidia earnings were
Gotcha.
last night at 4 o'clock. So there was no options trading after that, right? All the positions are changing now. Everybody's adjusting now. We're going into Labor Day weekend. So did everybody sell calls in Nvidia? And we'll see that in the report. Did they buy calls in the S&P? Like, exactly how are they adjusting to this? And then I'm going to be able to take that and then say, okay, the way that everybody adjusted to that today or tomorrow, right, in tomorrow's report is going to give me a great signal for what I can sort of expect over the next 2 weeks, right? Gotcha. So, I think that context is important. Like, if everybody tomorrow is buying tons of S&P puts, then I'm going to be, a little bit worried about, the stability of the market. If everyone buys a bunch of IWM calls for 2 weeks out, or there's some big trades in an open or something like that, then I'm going to be like, okay, might be squeeze time, right? So we'll see that information. We'll be able to sort of pull out the sentiment from that, and I think it'll be really insightful again, because whether they bought to open or bought to cover, right? You kind of understand exactly how they did it. It's not just a trade you have to try to guess at. You kind of get that extra leg of this is what they actually did, and here's the information I could take from that.
Makes complete sense. Well, obviously, I know we're already a little bit over our time, so truly appreciate your time, your insights. This tool looks awesome. Folks, if you want to take advantage of it, like I said, FREE, it's one of our favorite things. It is free up until, I believe, September 5th. Pinned to the top of chat, in the description of the video. Obviously, we're going to have you again on in the future, and I implore you in your fight. I applaud you in your fight with the Flow Bros, and let's see if you're going to end up being victorious. But hey, good luck with the PCE report tomorrow. I hope you absolutely crush it.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate the time.
All right. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Folks, there you have it. That is Brent, founder and chief analyst of Spot Gamma, on the screen right about now. You could sign up. You could check it out. It's cool. It's kind of like an overnight processing type of thing. And we've all seen it on Twitter, on YouTube, on Reddit, of people just always Monday morning quarterbacking and be like, look at someone new. Look at all this money. Well, no, this is actually the analysis of, was it market makers? So market makers, was it just high frequency trading in and out that day, no longer having an influence the next day? Or was it real, legitimate information? So once again, this is riskless to you for you to check it out. And as Brent just alluded to, the interesting update you have time to sign up for, because it's going to be out tomorrow morning. So yesterday we had Nvidia's report. We're going to trade all day today, and then in preparation for PCE tomorrow, lots of people are trading right now this calendar day. You're going to get the analysis of everything that happened today, tomorrow morning, before the market opens. So at an absolute minimum, I highly implore you to take advantage of it, because why not? If you like it, great, use it. And if it's not for you, at least you got to use it for one day, but no harm, no foul. It didn't cost you anything. So obviously, shout out to Spot Gamma, and really the platform as a whole is just getting better and better and better. And here, like, this is just kind of an example of it. This was this morning's. This was what I got in my email inbox. This is exactly what Brent had up on his screen there, and it's just kind of showing all these interesting bets, and it goes from indices to individual stocks to breakdowns. It is quite extensive, but it's a good thing to have your morning coffee with. So just shout out, obviously, to Spot Gamma once again, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. And on that note, how is the market looking? How is the market looking? Wait, I just got an alert. Let me zoom out. Nvidia's picking up a little bit, putting in officially this higher low. Honestly, I would interpret this higher low right here. This higher low to be the first one, actually. Yeah, looks like it has maybe this opportunity to recover. Looks like there's a bit of a rotation potentially going on in the short term from small cap over to tech. We're getting a little bit of our legs here. Nvidia picking up a bit. Something bad happened with Tesla. What in the world happened with Tesla? I'm getting a breakdown alert on it. It's down 1.44%. Was there news on Tesla, folks, chat, that I missed during that? It just completely... kind of starting at 10.07, but really picking up at 10.17. We just puked about $5 for seemingly no reason whatsoever there. No reason whatsoever. What the hell happened? Well, anyway, the Qs are picking up a little bit. We obviously we popped, range bound, puked. We got that recovery, the inverse shed, shoulder, head, shoulder. This is the trade I wish without a doubt I took somewhere in here. Without a doubt, I wish I took that trade. Obviously, I missed it, and at this point, I should probably wait for my opportunity. But we went from lower highs and lower lows to now we have higher highs and higher lows. Let's see if there is follow through. You guys already know my game plan. The Qs are sitting on top of the high from yesterday. I like that. The SPY is having a very tough time getting back into the green. We had this support at first at 950. We popped back up to it, got smacked, put in a higher low, got smacked again. So maybe the third time is the charm, and then that'll give us the opportunity to run back up to the high from yesterday. Nvidia seemingly trying to find a little bit of stability. Maybe I would love a push back up above 181. Tesla, unfortunately, getting destroyed. Avago looking good. Apple looking decent. Netflix not doing anything. Meta not doing anything. Microsoft not doing anything. Palantir recovering a bit there. Coin, Hood putting in that higher low. BITX showing a little bit of life. Bitcoin back to 113,000. How can I get into your Discord? All the stuff is in the description of the video. All the stuff. So easy link right there. I guess just go check it out. It'll be bold. It'll be evident. It'll say Goonie Trading Discord, and you could access it from there. This is pretty interesting. I just sold a put option on open, and now I know it was safe bet to make premium on what people calls at 450 to 5. Kind of. I don't know if I would jump to that of like, oh, it's safe. Like, remember, risk is a paradigm, like risk increases, decreases, that type of thing. I wouldn't just like straight up call it safe because other people are buying calls. And that's not necessarily what was being called out in this. Where was it? But open shows very large gamma exposure, high volatility risk. I would be hesitant to be making certain conjectures. High vol risk. That doesn't mean bullish. It means expect moves. And you were able to sell it for a good value because vol was so high. Where are we on the daily chart? But the daily chart is looking a little bit toppy, but they are expecting high vol. So depending on the strike you sold it at, you're effectively trying to take advantage of vol crush. And you are right to say, be like, okay, cool, large gamma exposure, high volatility risk, so maybe a good time to sell premium, especially if you could get on the right side of the trend. Could this be the starting point of a Vanna rally? I wouldn't go as far to say I'm expecting a Vanna rally today. I'm just expecting the Vanna and Charm influences to carry us higher. Hang on, let's let all these charts reload. Yeah, we're back on the top of this transition zone, so I very much like that. Oh, I kind of wish I missed a couple trades here for sure. For sure. No. How do I... No. How do I delete all this? Clear data. All right, cool. We're going to do this spread. I do want to mark it. All right, cool. We'll get these calls. I just got into SPX calls, 10 of them, 780 each. And let's 780. So let's get out at 880. 930. Okay, confirm and send. All right, I'm in at 880. I have a pending order to get out at 930. So once again, I am in at 780, trying to get out at 930. If that gets a fill, it should be a gain of 1.5K. And my reasoning for this, and I'm seeing the delta start to finally pick up. We've finally got some stabilization. Finally got some stabilization, and now I'm just playing this overall trend of higher highs and higher lows with the natural target of yesterday's high. Pretty straightforward. Honestly, a very straightforward play. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I like the risk, I like the reward, and I believe I'm on the right side of the trend. Once again, I'm in at 780, and I'm attempting to get out at 930. I have 10 of them. It should be a 1.5K return, especially if we get up to that high from yesterday. And really, I'm playing this recapture, the transition zone, the recapture of red to green, and I'm looking somewhere, my first target in this zone from 87 to 90, and then obviously the reach target of 5,000, but I'll get my fill before there. If anything, I should probably be getting my fill roughly around 90. So that's the play I just got. So I missed the futures entry. There was actually a couple times I missed the futures entry. So at this point, I'm going to have to probably wait for later this afternoon. I don't want to just arbitrarily trade it now. So, hey, it happens. 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 All right, I'm going down to the 3 minute just so we can see this a little bit better. Once again, here's the flow. SPY puked until about 10:05 and then had like kind of like an overreaction at 10:30, but now we're starting to see a little bit of life. Mag 7 put in a higher low after that puke, same thing till about 10 a.m. We're just seeing that like literally they're running back pretty much what we saw yesterday. It really nothing different. Matt completely ignored I was banned by Kitty. Well, this was a conspiracy. Banned by Kitty. What in the world are you talking about, dude? Trex, are you sober this morning? Are you sober at all today? Dude, all of my screens are freaking out over here. Hang on, I need to reload all this data. All right. I do like, how's the NASDAQ looking? Also, what happened with Tesla? Yeah, Tesla puked hard from 10:03 down to 10:36. That was a hard puke there on Tesla. The daily chart bouncing off the low from 2 trading sessions ago, which actually kind of makes the breakout of today's high a bit more interesting. Hopefully this can keep going, but yeah, kind of looking a little bit toppy. Overshot the high from mid-August, but not quite hitting the high from roughly the end of June. So Tesla taking out that low, not the biggest fan. It did puke pretty hard. Puts being sold, calls, or puts being bought, calls being sold, delta dropping from both. But in terms of the quote unquote real positioning, well, we'll find out a little bit later when we get the influences of the actual open interest change. The NASDAQ is starting to go again. I like that that's higher. I'm afraid to check my own positions still though, because they're not as nice as I'd want them to be. 5 minute on ES is trying to push bullish. 10 minutes trying to push bullish. 30 minute is saving itself from going bearish. 4 hour is still very clearly bullish. With respect to the NASDAQ, 5 minutes bullish, 10 minutes bullish, 30 minutes bullish, 4 hour is bullish. Let's update these for breakouts and breakdowns. I'm basically watching the 6 to 10 bar on both of these. Do we break the high or do we break the low of the 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. bar? Very much care about that. Very much care about that. All right, we're seeing a little bit of life. How's my trade looking? Down 450 as of now. But hey, I'm confident. We'll see if it works out. Overall, today's intraday high is the new all-time high. It was kind of a fluke right at market open, but I don't think it's going to be a fluke much later on today. I really do think that we have this opportunity to see if we can get a follow-through. See if we can get a little bit of this follow-through. Nvidia's waking up. Bitcoin's holding 113. Can Tesla got sold? Does it have to do with the BYD news? I saw some news that it's kind of getting outpaced internationally by some other EV plays. Before I change it, once again, if you want that Flow Patrol report for free from Spot Gamma, it's pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video, but I'm about to switch it out. What? I can't comment myself. Testing. All right. I'm switching it out right now. Just to let you guys know, Funding Ticks is doing a flash sale for 24 hours only. So Funding Ticks, another sim to funded one. This is currently your best offer. Use the code Goonie, 50% off. It's a 24-hour flash sale. It ends today. Quote unquote. Remember, the major quote I should say is it ends today. Use that code Goonie, 50% off. Ending today. Flash sale. That one's now pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. The full thing, because there's no activation fee, you could get a 50K account right now for like 39 bucks. As in, you'll have your eval and then there's no activation. This is dirt cheap, which is why it's only running for 24 hours. So just want to shout out to them. And we're getting that follow through that I was anticipating. I'm green, but not as green as I want to be. I haven't locked anything in yet. So it's up a little bit, but like I said, I need a bit more of this follow through. I'm going to be watching this zone between 87 and 90, but I also want to check. Okay, Mag 7 is coming back to life. S&P 500 is coming back to life. Trace. Oh, wait, is this a new Iron Condor? Yeah. Okay, so someone put on an Iron Condor today, basically saying we will end the day below 6505 and we will end the day above 6440. Iron Condor got placed at some point during my conversation with Brent to the size of about 16,000. Well, that's 18,000. So once again, this player is betting on bounds being set today. Bounds being set. They sold the 6505 call, as in they think we're going to close below it, and they sold the 6440 put, as in they think we're going to close above it. So they think we're going to be in this 65-point region when the bell officially goes dingity ding 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 at 4 p.m. today. So once again, this was not here when the market opened. Some player, actually, we can find out exactly when they did it. Okay, so the put side was placed at the first 10 minutes of the day, and then it grew because it started at 7,000. This is at 940. And then how big did it get? It grew by 950. It grew to 13,000. By 10 a.m., it was still 13,000. By 10:10, 10:20, it got up to 17. And at 10:10, that's when they threw on the call side. So the put side of the iron condor, the put credit spread, 940, 950, 10, 10, 10, they just kept adding to it. And then right at 10:10, they threw on this call side. So this all happened actually throughout the trading session today. And right now the call credit spread is 16,000. The put credit spread is 18.5. This is a neutral bet. This is saying, hey, we're not really breaking out. We're not really breaking down. Just because they placed it, remember, that doesn't mean that they're right. Like, we've been here multiple times before where we've seen these players get busted up. But at that size, obviously, financially, they're pretty confident about something happening. And we're still seemingly see a rotation from the Russell back into tech. The Russell's going down and down and down, and tech's going up and up and up, which kind of makes that flow patrol call out of the put rolls a little bit more interesting to consider. So remember, flow patrol's in the description of the video. Funding ticks. It's a flash sale, 24 hours only, 50% off. You could get those 50K accounts for dirt cheap right now. Absolutely dirt cheap. $39, no activation fee if you pass it. That is so incredibly affordable relative to the rest of the industry. That's a pretty nice deal. Must be some sort of a loss leader for them. So the NASDAQ running up to pretty much where we were this morning. Which means why did I not? I traded way too early. You guys let me trade way too early because now I've also missed this pop back where I would have been finally green on the day. So that's definitely going to prompt me to revenge trade. Without a doubt. All right. Well, while we're wrapping it up here, we have about 7 minutes left. Any questions, comments, concerns? Do you have questions that I might be able to help you with on Flow Patrol? Do you have questions about funding ticks? Do you have questions about the options flow, the positioning, the PCE report tomorrow, SIM defunded in general, options Greeks, anything? What's on your mind? What is on your mind? Let's use the last couple minutes of the show. Can I answer anything for you for the Goonie Discord? For how horrible my fantasy football drafts were last night. Sobriety is pain. You'll get over it. Why does Tesla hate me? It doesn't hate you. It doesn't know you. You're just a bad trader. Why did you tell us to buy JCPenney? When in the world have I even talked about JCPenney? I made 80-point profit on the short NQ this morning. Well, I don't like that because it's a counter trend trade, but congrats to you. Making money is making money. Is it true if you don't use it, you lose it? Without a doubt. Where did you learn all this stuff? Books and the internet. XRP. That's just a statement. That's not a question. My monthly expenses? Dude, I don't know. 20, 30K probably. I mean, rent in New York is not cheap. I have an employee. I pay a lot of data fees. Well, it's high, dude. Matt, buy XRP. Why would I do something stupid like that? Is Matt Kohrs show a good place to learn? I don't know. For some people, yes, but Dr. J, I've seen you ask a lot of questions that you should already know the answers for, so I don't think it's necessarily good for everyone. Why did you make your fame telling us to buy Blockbuster? I just really think it's going to come back. How long have you been trading for? It depends. Like hardcore trading, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. That's a lie, even longer, 2017. But I made my first trade as like my first trade ever was a junior in high school. So that was circa 2011. First trade ever about 15 years ago, hardcore trading in the past like 8 to 10. Do you think you would do well on Caleb Hammer? I don't know. I think so. I think a lot of people on Caleb Hammer have like absurd debt with absurd interest payments and they're not doing anything about it. I don't carry any debt. I only spend money if I have money to spend. So my worst case situation is going to zero, not negative. Can we copy your trades on your Discord? You shouldn't. Copy trading is like such a perfect methodology to lose money. The point of the Discord is to learn from each other, to help each other, to have conversations about why people are trading, to learn the methodology. Arbitrarily copying, I would never, and not even just for me, I just don't think you should copy any trader because you don't know what they're seeing, you don't know their risk tolerance, you don't know if they're on tilt, you don't know if they're following their system or if they broke their rules. Arbitrarily copying, it's absurdly dangerous. So no, if you are thinking you're going to join my Discord and like you're like, oh, I'm just going to copy Matt, that's a horrible idea. I show my trades, but I show my trades because I want to be transparent, and I'm tired of all these gurus and gurus talking about how they're so amazing, but they don't show anything. The point of me showing my trades is to be transparent, but then also to like explain what I'm seeing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then from there, that's the learning process where like, okay, I kind of get it, or maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, maybe you kind of agree, disagree. But it's for you to improve your own trading framework and your own like trading methodology. Arbitrarily copying is a very, very dangerous game, and I've never heard of it ending well for anyone. Would you ever collab with Meet Kevin? I have. I've made videos with Meet Kevin. We haven't talked about our trading styles, but I think we have very different styles. That guard of YouTube, that particular wave, like Graham Stephan, Andre Jick, Meet Kevin, they're not active traders. They're investors, and they're very knowledgeable, and they know what they're doing when it comes to the market. But they're by no means like day traders. Are you bullish on the markets till the end of the year? I have no idea. It depends on the data that comes in. I'm a data-dependent trader. I don't know what the next round of data is going to be, so how could I answer a question about the end of the year? Unless you got Pelosi doing it at the moment. What? Why do you live in such a shitty state? I don't think New York's that shitty. I mean, I think there's shitty aspects to it, such as the taxes, but there's also experiences here that you literally can't get anywhere else. And that's probably true with any state. There's pros and cons to every state, but there are some of the most talented, impressive, successful people in the world in New York. So if you want to be around those types of people, they're here. There's very few places in the world that within a 10-minute walk, you can have a business meeting with a billionaire, see one of the most impressive singers ever, like go to a show and see some of the best like acting ever, and then go and get some of the best like omakase you've had in your life, all within 10 minutes. So that's the pros, but then the trade-off is it costs a shitload to do that. So I deeply believe that like many places in this world, it's just pros and cons, and it's just what pros do you want to optimize on and which cons do you not care that much about. There might be some people in the world that love Florida because they like the sunshine and they like that, like it's very tax advantage. And then there's other people who hate the beach and hate the ocean and don't want to ever be near it, and it's too hot and they would rather live in fucking Maine for all I know. So there's pros and cons, but I like shitty state is just a personal opinion. There are many people, like a lot of the times, high caliber jobs where you get a lot of money, power, and influence. You have to be in a large urban area. It's just how it goes. The trade off is in the same 10 minutes. You can also be assaulted by a hobo. You could be assaulted by a hobo, but I feel like you could be assaulted by anywhere that just has people. I mean, I feel like as much as you could be assaulted in New York or California, what's stopping someone from assaulting you in like Tennessee? I feel the assault, I mean, to avoid that, that's more of like just go live by yourself, which that has pros and cons too. Zamdani, I'm not the biggest fan of that guy, but I'm not going to be a fan of anyone who thinks that somehow socialism or the extreme communism is ever beneficial, because there's never been one example in history of it ever working. So I don't like the odds of it. The fact that we conceal carry, yeah, that makes sense. You think you conceal carrying is going to stop? Okay, that's smart. It feels like we're at the part in the show where we're really seeing some like high level intellectual statements right now. There's never assault in my state because we allow concealed carry. We're so fucking tough. We're so tough. I love the whole tough talk is probably my favorite part of the internet. Like, I just love it. Just like, I'm a nice guy until you cross me, and then you're gonna have something to worry about. Like, come on, dude. as if you could do shit against anyone who's actually trained. I don't think the average person realizes that someone who like knows how to fight and knows what they're doing, they're not just a little bit better than an untrained person. They are literally like leagues better. Like, I'm tough. I have a concealed carry. Yeah, good luck, dude. Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. Our crime is way less than New York with their gun-free zones and no prosecution of criminals. Okay, yeah. And there is not good restaurants by you. There are not good, like, there's not good business near you. Like, it's the trade-offs. I'm in no way saying it's perfect. I'll complain about New York a lot. I think there's a lot of like, I think the crime's fucked up. I think the taxes are fucked up. I think there's a lot of things that go on that are bad. But the trade-off is, it's just more extreme. You get a lot of bad things, but then the trade-off is you get a lot of good things. It's highly densely populated with some of the most impressive people in the entire world. It has a lot of the schooling, like the colleges here are impressive. They have good schools. They have, like, in terms of like the education you could actually get, it's the epicenter of Wall Street. Like, it with the very bad bads, you get very good goods. That's the trade-off. So when you guys are saying, well, we don't have that bad bads, well, you also don't have that many of good goods either. It's a trade-off. And like, I've lived in areas like that. And once again, it's pros and cons. I would never shit on either, because like, you just focus on the pros, and you in your individual life and where you are in your life, just optimize for that. Optimize for what you think the most necessary pros are for you, and just have at it. That's what you do. It's not that like complicated. Are you watching the US Open? I'm actually going to the US Open this weekend. I'm very excited for it. Very excited for it. Very excited for it. I think it's going to be a blast. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But Matt, you're not in school. We're always in school. I like smaller cities. Better pro-con balance, in my opinion. Wow. Very insightful. You're living in an area that you think is better. That's what everyone should be doing. That's kind of the beauty of having 50 states, is ideally they all have their own independent, unique economy and culture and rules, and you just go pick the one that you think is best. Like, if I'm getting the weird guy that you like right now, you guys think you're saying something super insightful, but if you really think about it, you're kind of saying something that's kind of like a no duh type of a situation. Like, yeah, go live in the city that you think is best. Not complicated. Not complicated. I mean, you're talking to a guy. Do you know how many times I've moved since like 2020 alone? I think I've already moved 4 or 5 times. Like, yeah. Just move. like go move to what you think is a better area. Like, oh man. You gotta like, dude, I think we're on to something here. I think we are. All right. Well, as we're wrapping it up for the day, looks like we're finally finding a bit of stability, grinding it back. The SPY and Qs are both green. The Qs are above their high from yesterday. The SPY is in between the high and the close from yesterday. Nvidia found a little bit of stability. Bitcoin back above 113. So not as exciting of a push. I really wanted that push to 6,500 on an SPX. I still think there's a very good chance of it happening today. It's just obviously going to take a little bit more of patience. So that's what I'm going to be on the lookout for. Maybe I could take advantage of a higher low and try to ride this up, but maybe it doesn't present itself at all today. That's obviously a possibility, but I should let you guys know that what happens today, it could easily be magnified tomorrow, or it could be completely reversed tomorrow, because an hour before the market opens tomorrow, we have the PCE inflation report. So PCE inflation on deck an hour before the market opens tomorrow. And you guys thought that the Nvidia earnings was influential. The PCE report is going to be even more influential. So good luck with all of that. Very much good luck. This is going to get a wee bit crazy. That's what I have for you now. I'll catch you guys later in an update video, and then we're going to be streaming tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. No, we'll start early tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we'll start at 8:20 for the inflation report. So get to bed early, set your alarms, because we're going to be doing it a little bit earlier, because why not? That's what I have for you. I appreciate all the good vibes. Don't forget to check out Flow Patrol or the Funding Ticks deal. Both are in the description of the video. Thanks for all the good vibes. Peace.